Hi, this is Zoe, and although this is not my first live video, I'm still a bit nervous. I think I think I need to practice more. So yes, I'm here to share about eczema because there were a lot of questions I noticed, and I'm going to share about my accountability goals in December. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to type in and I will answer. Okay, so in terms of eczema, there are three areas that I'm going to talk about. First, what causes eczema? Second, how to alleviate it. And thirdly, is there a cure? So, well, eczema, I think there are three causes. Okay, so before I go into it, right, I need to let you know that I'm in natural health, and so the solutions that I am actually recommending are more in terms of natural healing and health. And I am strongly against drugs, and I know that maybe some of you are using that, and I think that's your choice. It's your free choice, of course. But so what I'm just sharing here is just my opinion in terms of what I believe. Okay, so there are three possible reasons for eczema. The first is about the state of your autoimmune. The second is your foundation, and the third is the antibiotics. So let me talk about the autoimmunity. Autoimmune disease means there's something wrong with your immunity system. Okay, and so what is weak, you see, so it's not able to fight, or it's too intoxicated. So what happens is this. A lot of times, right, people think that eczema itself is a disease, but actually it's a symptom of the state of your body. I had a friend, right, who had eczema, and she thought she was cured of it because she grew out of it. But later on, right, anyway, this was her history. She had asthma for 16 years. Then after that, for 18 years, she had eczema. And then fibromyalgia for 9 years, and then H. pylori until now, it's controlled. So what happened was her immunity system wasn't very good. And so she had asthma for 16 years. And later on, when she thought that she was cured of asthma, what happened was it actually turned into eczema. But sometimes we look at these conditions as separate. But really, it's kind of like your body's alarm system telling you that there's something wrong, and that you have to really do something about it. But a lot of times what we do, right, is that we just take drugs and medicine to alleviate the symptoms, but the underlying roots of it is not addressed. So anyway, what happened was she was similarly she was seemingly cured of eczema, but actually it really wasn't that. She mentioned that even as a child, right, it was so bad her father had to change the bed sheets because she was scratching and scratching. And even though she no longer had childhood eczema, as she grew up, it turned into something worse. So eczema, later on I'll talk about, really, is there a cure, or is it something we grow out of? I mean, the growing out of it part is really we don't really grow out of it, especially for children. I think for parents, yesterday I was just talking to a friend, and she was actually taking care of this boy, and what happened was he had quite bad eczema. So his mom gave him clean food, they prayed over him, and he was cured, like his eczema disappeared, right? And then the mom changed her tactics and immediately thought, oh, he's cured, so he can take all the junk food. So she gave him all the food with colorings and all that. And it was a matter of time, the eczema came back again. So the question is, was it cured? Was it not cured? I think a lot of times, if your body is not very strong, you really need to take care of your diet, and And the thing is this, it shouldn't be that when when we think we're healthier, right, we can just put any junk inside our body and think that, oh, because, your body can deal with it. You see, the thing is this, that it doesn't matter if everyone else is doing it, because the junk food, the junk culture is normalized. Taking white rice is normalized. But if you think about it, 100 years ago, right, it wasn't like that. Even things like meat, we are not fully meat eaters. If you look at our physiology, our body, right, and all that, we are not meant to digest too much meat. If you look back into our grandparents' time and all that, maybe we take about 10 to 20%. Meat wasn't so readily available, and actually meat is pretty toxic. But anyway, that's a class for another day. Okay, so the second reason why people get eczema is also in terms of what they were, the foundation, the health foundation they were born with. And a lot of times, I think this has to be linked to the mom's health. And so I always strongly believe that couples who are planning for babies, the mom really needs to take care of the health, because what she's eating, what she's consuming, is passed on to her child. So for a number of parents, couples who are with us, who are in natural health and healing, we will always advise them to do a proper detoxification, clean up your body, put in the essential nutrients, so that your body is a great environment for the fetus to grow up in. Okay, the third reason for eczema can be actually antibiotics. So antibiotics is really quite toxic to the body. One of our trainers, right, was saying, like, you're using a hammer to kill an ant. The way that antibiotics is doled out in the clinics. So what does antibiotics do? Antibiotics kill all bacteria, regardless of whether it's good or bad. So it kills the bad bacteria, but it also kills the good bacteria. It's like dropping a nuclear bomb onto a village and killing both the terrorists and the civilians. So what happens is that when you take antibiotics, it kills off the good bacteria that's in your gut. And one of the things that the good bacteria does is that it actually boosts your immunity system. That's one. But it also takes care of your colon health, and it maintains your colon lining. So, for example, right, if a person's health is not very good, right, the colon lining is pretty thin already, and the colon lining is maintained by the good bacteria. So when the antibiotics kill off the good bacteria, right, it thins off the colon lining as well, and we have what we call leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut means that it means holes in your colon. So food that is not quite digested, seeps through the colon into the bloodstream. And so, as you know, if it's not fully digested, right, normally anything that is bad flows out the colon, and then it's down into the rectum, and then it should pass out of the body. But because of these holes, it seeps back into the bloodstream, and this is a situation we call this is what we call auto intoxication. Yeah. So the toxins go into the bloodstream, and so the body is trying to get rid of it, but it's trying to get rid of it through the bloodstream, right? And so it can flare up through the skin as eczema. Okay, so that is what causes eczema. The second part is how to alleviate it. Well, a lot of people like to use steroid creams, but I would suggest not to do that, because when you start your kid off with steroid creams, you just need to get a stronger and stronger dose in order to calm the symptoms down. So usually people start with cream, then they go for oral, ingestion. Then after that, they start to actually inject into their bodies, and so it gets, it just gets worse and worse. So I have people asking me, but what to do? I really can't stand this condition. It's so itchy and all. I think for those really severe case, there is a reversal, which I will talk about later. But let's talk about at the point of steroid cream, right? If you find it's itchy and you want to alleviate it, you know, as Stephen, yeah, hi Stephen, mentioned, right? You can use any moisturizer, preferably organic. But I would suggest using a mixture of castor oil and coconut oil. Castor oil is very antibacterial and it's very calming. And one of the functions of castor oil would be to alleviate the itchiness and also, you know, to cleanse the skin somewhat. But of course, you know, if you're concocting yourself, it needs to be organic, totally organic, because your skin is already so sensitive because of the eczema. So you really need to make sure that whatever you're applying is totally free from chemicals. So there was one time I remember, right, we had a customer whose 4-year-old daughter had pretty bad eczema. So I think she had the skin between her toes, you know, it was bloody and all that, and she was crying. And she was crying, and yeah, Mopico. Mopico, yeah, okay, super hot. So it's cooling in that sense. I'm not sure about Mopico's or Mopico's chemicals inside. Yeah, but at least he feels good at that point of time. But I think what we want to do is also to try to also how do you say, to also alleviate, but I won't say it won't reverse just by applying a cream on it, right? Because we want to treat the roots of the problem. Yeah, so I'm answering Stefan's comment. Okay, so anyway, for this little girl, so she was crying. Her mom was at her wit's end, so she called my mentor, and then my mentor said, okay, you know, I come up with this a mixture of castor oil, coconut oil, castor oil about 80%, and wonda oil, which is a kind of tea tree oil for also the antibacterial properties. Alleviate. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me finish the story first, Stefan, and then I answer your comment. So so she went all the way from Congo to Bukit Panjang to take up that oil from Lydia. And after that, she sprayed on her daughter, and then she texted Lydia and said, you know, it's so wonderful because after we sprayed, you know, she could sleep and it was totally not itchy anymore. So that was great. Okay, so Stefan was asking alleviate, cure. Alleviate is, to me, is alleviating the symptoms just to pacify it so we can live with it. Is it a cure? Cure? Well, it depends on what you define cure as, which I will talk about in the third section of, you know, this sharing. Okay, so first way to alleviate is through topical application. Second way is, of course, food. You eat clean. Some of the food that you can consider that is good for the skin is to get organic flaxseed oil. Now, flaxseed oil, just be careful. It's a very it's quite a delicate oil. So please do not buy off the shelf. You need to buy flaxseed oil that is packed in a black bottle because it's light sensitive. It also needs to be chilled because it's temperature sensitive. So never get flaxseed oil in pill form, because in order to seal the oil in the pill, some heat must have been applied. So we're not sure how much efficacy is the oil left in that pill. Secondly, you don't get flaxseed oil eating flax seeds, okay? So that's a totally different thing. And flax seeds itself, sometimes our body cannot digest it, and we have heard stories that it just passes out of the body anyway. Okay, the third way to alleviate is skincare. Obviously, use organic skincare, organic, even the soap, you don't use ordinary soap. So I think that is quite evident. The fourth way is to actually exercise. And the type of exercise that we recommend is bouncing on a trampoline. Yeah, so if you don't have a trampoline, you can skip. But usually for kids and sometimes for adults, you find that's much more fun to actually bounce on trampoline. And the reason for bouncing is because it actually promotes lymphatic drainage. Whenever we are fighting something, right, our lymph nodes get really swollen. And then, you know, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, we don't feel well, you know, sometimes it flares like eczema. So by actually jumping, you're kind of releasing the lymph nodes so that, you know, there's a lymphatic drainage that is promoted by the act of bouncing. Yes. Okay. So So the last part of my sharing for eczema is there a cure? So it depends on what you define cure as. Okay, normally we think of cure as curing a disease, and a lot of people think like you know, eczema is a disease. Okay, to me, that's to me, right? It's a symptom. So for example, I draw you an analogy like fever, right? When we have a fever, you know, and then we recover from our fever, is the fever cured if we get the fever again in the future? You get what I mean? So the thing is this: the fever is what we call a healing reaction. Okay, let me explain what it means. It can come, you see, when we have a fever, our immunity system is fighting against some kind of invasion, right? So your body gets overheated up. It looks like a fever, and a lot of times people will look at it and say, hey, you know, I have a fever, and then you know, let's take some medicine, and then let's cure it, right? Or it's painful, it's uncomfortable, let's take some Panadol and just you know, numb it. So I feel that that's not the way to deal with it, because what happens is when you have a fever, when you're not feeling well, it's actually your body telling you that, hey, there's something wrong. Can you take care of it? Okay, it's like the fever is the alarm that goes off when the thief invades your house. So you chase the thief out, you don't switch off the alarm. And a lot of times when we take Panadol, it's like you switch off the alarm, but the thief is still in the house, so you're not addressing the roots of the problem yet. Okay, so for eczema, I feel that eczema itself is your body telling you there's, you know, there's all these toxins in the body. Remember the story I told my friend earlier on in this getting long sharing? She had asthma, it became eczema, then it became fibromyalgia, you know. So these are all symptomatic of autoimmune disease, is symptomatic. But the eczema itself wasn't the disease. So when she stopped having eczema, it wasn't that she was cured out of it or she grew out of it, it was just buried. Okay, so so is there a way to reverse it? Yes, but eczema is one of the more difficult. I mean, we can reverse cancer. Cancer, when we do the natural healing rate, is 2 to 5 years. But eczema is not. It's much shorter. But I say it's difficult in the sense that the healing reaction is quite difficult to take, depending on how intensive or how fast you want to go through it. So earlier on in my post, I talked about this lady who approached us, and she was on steroids for 36 years, you know, and she knew about natural healing, but it was until the time where she couldn't take the pain anymore from steroids. So it started from you know, topical application to oral, and then finally she was injecting. And she was a piano teacher, or she is a piano teacher, but she couldn't teach anymore because the steroids had eaten up into her bones, and you know, she has stiff joints and she couldn't move. So when she approached us, you know, she said, you know, I just don't want to take steroids anymore. Can you help me? And so he said, yeah, we could. But you need to know the healing reactions is pretty severe because you were on steroids for 36 years. So what she did was she did a 21-day detox program, right? And the healing reactions, I don't have pictures here, but it came off as very huge, ugly blisters. Her skin was totally raw, right? When my friend visited her, my friend who was, you know, counseling her on this, right? You know, she would show the floor and there was like flicks of skin, you know, she was like shedding. And this was what my friend said, right? My friend said healing reactions can be very uncomfortable, even painful, but itchiness is the worst. And so in terms of that, it is difficult to go through, but she was very determined. So I think anyone, is there a cure for it? Sometimes whether it comes back or not depends on the person themselves, whether they are disciplined, whether they are able to go through the program. But she was very determined because she was just so in bondage for the last 36 years. So and she had that space to do so because she was self-employed. So for those, she recovered. I won't say cured. She recovered in 3 months to the extent she doesn't need steroids anymore. Yeah, but does it come back? it comes up when she eat like, you know, not clean food like seafood or that sort of thing. But she no longer needed steroids. But in those 3 months, it was quite difficult because you're itching all the way, right? So how can you work? So in terms of her space where she was coming from, she was self-employed, so she was able to take time off to recover. But I have other customers, right? And sometimes it's quite difficult because when they go through other detoxification programs, the healing reaction comes out immediately, and they had to stop because they cannot have that and work at the same time. So sometimes it really depends on the circumstances as well as the person. Yeah. So yeah, that's my sharing. I always try to keep this live videos to 10 minutes. I think it's about 10 to 15 minutes for this. So I wanted to share my goals. I think I will just post my accountability November goals, and at the same time share my December goals in a written post at Solopreneur. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next.